why don't we lift the sanctions? Let's do a little test here. Let's do an experiment. Let's lift the sanctions, get rid of this decade-long embargo, and see what happens here. See what happens as far as people who are starving and having to seek sources of power because there are blackouts. Like what? Let's just try. Let's try an experiment here and remove the U.S. power and see what results. Experiment implies factual information and the U.S. doesn't like this. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Camila Cabello is actually going to see any of these comments here. Yes, it's Catholic. I've worked with their food banks in PR. If communism sucks so much, lift the embargo and let's see what happens. Yeah. I thought Obama did that. No, Obama did not completely remove the embargo. This embargo has been in place across many, many presidential administrations. His administration did ease some of the sanctions, and we saw the effects of that. But right now, with Donald Trump in office, he is trying to show that he's the guy who can do all these things that previous presidential administrations have tried. And that is why they just straight up kidnapped the president of Venezuela. They just went in and took Maduro. That is why they are forcing, they are taking this blockade and turning it up to 100 to fully cripple life in Cuba. They want to push the 11 million residents of Cuba to the absolute brink so that they can finally get what they have been seeking. Thank you. I knew Trump did whatever Obama did. Visiting Cuba has always been on my bucket list since I was a teen. Yeah, I mean, that's why a number of people are forming a humanitarian flotilla and are going to attempt a trip to Cuba to bring not just supplies, but also to document and show actually what is happening and like what's causing it. Trump did that on day one. Obama intended to start the path to normalizing communications. No surprise, this is becoming even more harsh with Rubio and his family. Yeah. Cubans, I know, all believe or pretend to that the sanctions are simply the U.S. alone not trading with Cuba, not that it actually is what it is, which is political coercion against all countries to isolate Cuba. They're so convinced that the government's corrupt that lifting the blockade wouldn't change anything. And this is what happens when you reach a point where your economy and society is so destabilized that it pushes people to the brink of desperation. And so, yeah, there are people in Cuba and there are a lot of Cuban immigrants who are turning around and blaming the Cuban government because, one, propaganda, two, they've reached a point that they can't survive it. Like they cannot withstand these crippling sanctions. And so they're like, we just, whatever, this has to end. And if that means succumbing to US power, then that's what it is. I was proud of Bad Bunny showing the power outage, lack of FEMA help, and wrong death count. Yes, in Puerto Rico. But unfortunately, we have Cuban celebrities like Camila Cabello who are pushing this lie that the economic instability, the blackouts, the food shortages, the brutal reality in Cuba has not to do with the United States causing this. Exactly, like to them, it doesn't matter the cause. They just want change. Yeah, I mean, this is a continuation of the West's war on communism and on the many countries in Latin America, in South America that they have invaded, that they have committed actions in, either discreetly behind the scenes or just forthright, like in kidnapping Maduro, in order to control these countries' economies, in order to control their governments. It's changed to be a global convoy in addition to the flotilla now. What's the link for that? Is there a website for? I think there is. Can someone link the flotilla website? Thank you. Okay. Update. Our flotilla is growing into a global convoy. Destination Havana, as Camila Cabello sings. Havana. 21st of March, 2026. We are mobilizing to Cuba, bringing critical humanitarian aid for its people. The Trump administration is strangling the island, cutting off fuel, flights, and critical supplies for survival. There's like, what I don't understand is, okay, maybe Camila Cabello doesn't know the history here, but how the fuck do you not understand what is happening right now? The Trump administration is not like, this isn't happening secretly. It's not even like the media, which of course is usually presenting its reporting in a way that is favorable to the State Department, but they're reporting what is happening, and what is happening is the Trump administration is strangling Cuba. Like, they have cut off fuel, they have cut off flights, they have cut off all they have cut off all critical supplies. So Trump is bragging about it. Like, I don't understand how you, Camila Cabello, what's going on? They're openly being super villains about it. They're saying, yeah, we're starving Cuba. Yeah. Oh my God. Not that I really expect much from her, but how do you not see right now what Trump is doing and not acknowledge that and go, this is bad. Cuba had economic improvements during the Obama era, and the blockade wasn't even fully lifted. Trump reversed it and tightened it. COVID made it worse. And now Biden didn't do shit for Cuba. Now with Trump. Right, which is why we keep mentioning this experiment of, hey, why don't you lift the economic sanctions and see what happens afterwards? Oh, are things going to fall into total disarray? I don't think so, because we have seen what happened when you had a president like Obama, who, yes, he did not fully lift the embargo, but, significantly eased a lot of the sanctions that have crippled Cuba's economy, and just the what relief that provided and how it started to stabilize again. There is an embargo. There's no oil. There's no money. There's no anything, Trump bragged about aboard Air Force One on February 16th. The consequences of the U.S. siege are lethal for newborns and parents, for the elderly and the sick. Intensive care units and emergency rooms are compromised, as are the production, delivery, and storage of medicines, warned the UN High Commission for Human Rights. This is why we are preparing the Nuestra America convoy to Cuba, mobilizing by air, land, and sea in solidarity with the Cuban people. Since launch, we have been overwhelmed by support from communities across the world committed to breaking the criminal U.S. blockade. Now we are welcoming them to this historic mission, growing the coalition from a flotilla into a global convoy that will converge in Havana on the 21st of March. There is no time to waste as the Trump administration ramps up its assault on the island and its campaign to isolate its people. So join us in Havana and support our efforts to secure critical aid for homes, hospitals, schools, and families in need. Together we can break the siege, save lives, and stand up for the cause of Cuban self-determination. So ways to get involved: you can make a donation. You can collect aid in your community by consulting the FAQ below for a list of essential items for the Cuban people. Plan your delegation to Cuba by organizing your own itinerary or contacting local agencies to arrange the logistics of your stay. Drop aid at the collection site, the coordinates of which will be announced in coming days. Meet us on the Malecon, where the convoy will converge on March 21st in an act of solidarity with the Cuban people. This is the one Hasan said he was going to ride on. Yes, this is when it was initially a flotilla, but now it is becoming a global convoy. Can you post the link? Yes. Here you go. Also, Camila is Mexican too. She's being purposely ignorant while speaking about something she knows nothing about. Yeah, I think she's part Mexican. Isn't Will going to? I'm not sure yet. We have to communicate on this, because I think the last time they recorded Fear and Hasan was like, hey, you should come. I'll try to facilitate it. Are you going? Well, now I'm reevaluating, because at first I was like, oh, I don't know if I have a big enough platform to have a spot on the flotilla. I think I don't know. It was still in its infancy, but either way, I am wanting to support this mission, and there's a lot of ways to get involved here, either donating, collecting aid. So they say that they need tour. I mean, I told y'all, you got motion. I just was like, I don't want to. I didn't want it to be something where it was like, okay, I think a lot of people are going to try and get involved here. It'll be good for people who have the biggest platforms to bring attention to it. This is, you guys, I promise you, I'm not trying to be like, I'm just a small bean. I'm just little old me. When this was first coming together, it seemed like this was going to be a small group. There wasn't, it was not as big as it is now. Don't let chat pressure. No, it's not pressure at all. And I've already said that we had talked about Fear and, plus, me and probably Christian as well, and the Fear and extras going to Cuba. Like, this was an idea that Will had proposed when we were in China, and people liked it. They thought it was a good idea. Will has already been to Cuba. He filmed a documentary there, so he has experience. And he had said that it would be a great place to go and show the culture and the people and have a real, on the ground look. Yeah, I already linked this, but I'll link it again. The Pike delegation. Welcome, Pike delegation. Welcome. Welcome to Hasan, Pike, and delegation. Yes, thank you so much. Truly one of the most inspiring countries ever. I mean, the fact that they have not been able to succeed, and that is why Trump is turning up the temperature here. And now it is an emergency crisis in Cuba. Like, they have been trying for a very long time to seize control of Cuba and have not been able to. Yeah, it's close to a 70-year siege. Reminder that Western sanctions kill more than 500,000 people per year. Yes. The United States government commits so many acts of terrorism globally. They contribute to so many deaths directly, indirectly, via bombing campaigns, forced starvation, all the damage that we cause environmentally. New research shows that the US and European sanctions have killed 38 million people since 1970. It's just staggering. The United States and Europe have long used unilateral sanctions as a tool of imperial power to discipline and even destroy global South governments that seek to shake off Western domination, chart an independent path, and establish any kind of meaningful sovereignty. During the 70s, there were on average about 15 countries under Western unilateral sanctions in any given year, but it's for their own good. It's for their own good, okay? The way to free people is to cause them to suffer endlessly and die. In many cases, these sanctions sought to strangle access to finance and international trade, destabilize industries, and inflame crises to provoke state collapse. Even facing such opposition, Cuba sent troops across the world to end apartheid. The world owes so much debts to Cuba. Even under U.S. siege, Cuba has still been able to flourish in ways that American citizens could only, don't even dream of in their own country. Cuban healthcare, having some of the best medical care, producing some of the best doctors and medical professionals in the world. A bit fruity, innit? Indeed, it's a bit fruity. And I keep telling this story, but I think it's one that really illuminates the United States government. The United States government prioritizing power, prioritizing their control of Cuba over their own people. During Hurricane Katrina, Cuba had offered to send a massive delegation of doctors and medical professionals and medical supplies. And the U.S. government said no. They turned it down, which who knows how many deaths that resulted from not accepting that aid. And that was because they did not want to have to accept Cuba's aid. They did not want to. They would rather their own citizens suffer and die than to accept that aid. Literacy rate in Cuba is still higher than the US. Yes. So even with a almost 70-year siege, again, a lot of Americans, I think, they would be astounded, probably wouldn't even believe these facts about Cuba and its, Cuba's infrastructure and just the things that Cuba is still beating the United States in, despite having to deal with U.S. Imperialist power throttling them. For instance, when the popular socialist Salvador Allende was elected to power in Chile in 1970, the U.S. government imposed brutal sanctions on the country. At a September 1970 meeting at the White House, Richard Nixon explained the objective was to make Chile's economy scream. The historian Peter Kornbluh describes the sanctions as an invisible blockade that cut Chile off from international finance, created social unrest, and paved the way for the U.S.-backed coup that installed the brutal right-wing dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet. Since then, the U.S. and Europe have dramatically increased their use of sanctions. During the 90s and 2000s, an average of 30 countries were under Western unilateral sanctions in any given year. And now, as of the 2020s, it's more than 60, a strikingly high proportion of the countries of the global South. Sanctions often have a huge human toll. Scholars have demonstrated this in several well-known cases, such as the U.S. sanctions against Iraq in the 90s that led to widespread malnutrition, lack of clean water, and shortages of medicine and electricity. More recently, U.S. economic warfare against Venezuela has resulted in a severe economic crisis, with one study estimating that sanctions caused 40,000 excess deaths in just 1 year, from 2017 to 2018. Until now, researchers have sought to understand the human toll of sanctions on a case-by-case basis. This is difficult work and can only ever give us a partial picture, but that has changed with new research published this year in the Lancet Global Health, which gives us a global view for the first time. Led by the economist Francisco Rodriguez at the University of Denver, the study calculates the total number of excess deaths associated with international sanctions from 1970 to 2021. The results are staggering. In their central estimate, the authors find that unilateral sanctions imposed by the US and the EU since 1970 are associated with 38 million deaths. In some years during the 90s, more than 1 million people were killed. In 2021, the most recent year of data, sanctions caused more than 800,000 deaths. You listening, Camilla? Miss Cabello, are you listening? According to these results, several times more people are killed by sanctions each year than are killed as direct casualties of war. More than half of the victims are children and the elderly, people who are most vulnerable to malnutrition. The study finds that since 2012 alone, sanctions have killed more than 1 million children. Hunger and deprivation are not an accidental byproduct of Western sanctions. They are a key objective. This is clear from a State Department memo written in April of 1960, which explains the purpose of U.S. sanctions against Cuba. The memo noted that Fidel Castro and the revolution more broadly enjoyed widespread popularity in Cuba. It argued that every possible means should be undertaken promptly to weaken the economic life of Cuba by denying money and supplies, to decrease monetary and real wages, to bring about hunger, desperation, and overthrow of government. And again, if communism is so inherently bad, if communism leads to societal collapse, economic and societal collapse, then why don't you just let communism do what communism, as you claim, will do? Why impose these crippling sanctions on communist countries? Yeah, if it's truly so bad, just let it fail. It's like the argument against Owen, if socialism is so bad, why try to block it from happening? Well, that's because crazed racists like Deborah Messing are like, not in my city. We need to protect New York because New York has always been a perfect place. And now you have Zoran Mamdani, who is responsible for the snow. Deborah Messing, who maxes out the 100 Instagram stories that you can post. Can you link this? Yes, this is Jason Hickel. He's great. I follow him on Twitter. The power of Western sanctions hinges on their control over the world's reserve currencies, the US dollar and the euro, their control over international payment systems, and their monopoly over essential technologies like satellites, cloud computation, and software. If countries in the global south wish to chart a more independent path towards a multipolar world, they will need to take steps to limit their dependence in these respects and thus insulate themselves from backlash. The recent experience of Russia shows that such an approach can succeed. Governments can achieve greater independence by building South-South trade and swap lines outside the core currencies, using regional planning to develop necessary technologies, and establishing new payment systems outside of Western control. Indeed, several countries are already taking steps in this direction. Importantly, new systems that have been developed in China, like SIPs for international payments, Beidou for satellites, and Huawei for telecom. These are all this was all part of the things you need to know and use in China when we went. Now provide other global South countries alternative options that can become a pathway out of Western dependence and the sanctions net. And this is what will cause the American empire to finally crumble. These steps are necessary for countries that wish to achieve sovereign development, along with having nukes, but they are also a moral imperative. We cannot accept a world where 500,000, not that I want there to be nuclear proliferation, but we cannot accept a world where 500,000 people are killed each year to prop up Western hegemony. An international order that relies on this kind of violence must be dismantled and replaced. A BRICS-only currency is the pipeline that will eliminate any Western middleman. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite videos to link to people in capitalism environment is from Jason. Yeah, he's a real smart guy. I did not know there was a limit to IG stories. A lot of people found out there was a limit to IG stories because of Deborah Messing. Because Deborah Messing maxed out IG stories, and that was how a lot of people came to know for the first time. If communist bad, why hot? Because it's all part of the evil indoctrination. Wait, the funniest fucking thing, does anybody watch, of course, I'm sure a lot of you do, but Night of the Seven Kingdoms? I saw a tweet today that that was a picture of Egg in his, I think it was his funeral fit for the, whatever, I'm not going to say. Anyway, somebody goes, they're calling him Egg Guevara. They're likening him to Che. He got that fit on. They're calling, oh, sorry, no, I messed up. They're calling him Che. I fucked up the joke. They're calling him Che Guevara. The recently passed out on.
You can look at any existing socialist country. If you want to call them socialist, call them you want. Post-capitalist, I don't care. Call them camels, window shades. Doesn't matter. As long as you know the countries you're talking about. You can look at any one of those countries, and you can evaluate them several ways. One, comparing them to what they had before. And that to me was very compelling. That's what's so compelling about Cuba, for instance. When I was in Cuba, I was up in the Escambray, which is like the Appalachians of Cuba, very rugged mountains. People very poor, they were. And I said to the Campesino, I said, do you like Fidel? And he said, see, we'll all hustle. I remember this, all hustle. I said, why? And he pointed to this clinic right up there on the hill, which we had visited. I said, look at that. He said, before the revolution, we never saw a doctor. If someone was seriously ill, it would take 20 people to carry that person, because you go day and night. It would take 2 days to get to the hospital. First, because it was far away, and second, because you couldn't go straight. You couldn't cross the Latifundio land. The boss would kill you. So you had to go like this. And often when they got to the hospital, the person might be dead by the time you got there. Now we have this clinic up here with a full-time doctor. And today, a doctor in Cuba, when you become a doctor, you have to spend 2 years out in the country. That's a dedication to the people. And a dentist comes 1 day a week. And for more serious things, we're not more than 20 minutes away from a larger hospital. That's in the Escambray. So that's freedom. We're free today. We have more life. And I talked to a guy in Havana who said to me, before all I could see here in Havana, you call this rap and dog, we see it as a cleaner city. It's true. We got the paint is peeling off the walls, but you don't see kids begging in the streets anymore. And you don't see prostitutes. All we have is prostitutes. Prostitution is one of the biggest industries. And today, this man is going to night school. He said, I can read. I can read. You know what it means to be able to read? You know what it means to be able not to read? I remember when I gave my book to my father. I dedicated a book of mine. Gave him a copy of the book. He opened it up. Look at that.
I'm familiar.
He was in 7th grade. He was a son of an immigrant, a working class Italian. And he opens the book and he starts looking through it. And he gets misty-eyed. Very misty-eyed.
We do love reading here.
And I thought it was so touched that his son had dedicated a book to him. That wasn't the reason. He looked up to me and said, I can't read this, kid. I said, that's okay, Dad. I'm teaching students. I mean, that's not something. Don't worry about that. I wrote it to you. I mean, it's your book. And you don't have to read it. You know, it's a very complicated book, academic book. I said, I can't read this book. And he just, and this book.
No political speaks about it.
That's what the literacy is about. That's what the joy of literacy programs is. That's why I think we got people walking proud now for the first time. They were animals before. They weren't allowed to read. They weren't taught to read. So you compare a country to where it came from with all its imperfections. And those who demand its imperfection. The day after the revolution, they get up and say, are there civil liberties for the fascists? Are they going to be allowed to have their newspapers and their radio program? Are they going to be able to keep all their farms? The passion. That's how our liberals feel. The day after the revolution, the passion and concern they feel for the fascists, the civil rights and civil liberties of those fascists who were dumping and destroying and murdering people before. Now the revolution's got to be perfect. It's got to be flawless. Well, that isn't my criteria. My criteria is what happens to those people who couldn't read. What happens to those babies that couldn't eat, that died of hunger? And that's why I support revolution. The revolution.
I'm sorry, this is amazing speech. I just that fucking comment in chat. Word of advice: women do not hold the authority to speak over men of rulers in higher power. Thank you. A good reminder.
The children gets my support, not blindly, not qualified. And the Reaganite government,
like, bro, it's 2026. Is this what we're going with?
That tries to stop that kind of process, that tries to keep those people in poverty and illiteracy and hunger, that gets my undiluted animosity and opposition.
Oh my God. I mean, as he said, the revolution that feeds the children gets my support. Me too. Yes, it is true. Women do not hold the authority to speak over men of rulers in higher power, which I think the chatter is referring to themselves as said man of ruler in higher power. Women. Are they still talking? Women be talking. And women should be shutting the fuck up in, you know? I've had enough of women and their talk. Women and their chatter. Their previous comments in here were wild too. I do love someone who just is quite simple when they come in here and is like, woman need shut the fuck up. Woman bad. Woman speaking bad. Women need to know place, and women who not know place, bad. Caroline, you've exceeded your character limit for the day. Just wrap it up. Yeah, I know. Between posting on Twitter, being on stream, having a podcast episode on Matt Bernstein's podcast come out, I have blown past the limit here. I in fact have used my allotted time for the remainder of the year. It's February. And so unfortunately, I cannot speak for the rest of the year because I've just too much. That was a great episode, by the way. Thank you. Yeah, we go listen to this. I'm dying laughing at this thumbnail because Matt felt so bad that I was not on the thumbnail last time. I was like, dude, I understand. First of all, when you have, I'm actually not really the guest on the episode. It's more of he and I go, who should we bring on as the guest? But also, I'm not a YouTuber. Unfortunately, yet I am not a YouTuber. And so I told him, I was like, it's okay. This feels more disrespectful. No, I think it's really funny. I'm like, there is just this photo of me in between Jelly Roll and LeBron going, this feels worse. I told him, I was like, it's really okay. I don't need to be squeezed into the thumbnail. It's fine. By the way, I love seeing you on so many podcasts. Yeah, I keep going on podcasts because I do not have one of my own. Clearly, I want to have my own podcast again. I fear I tweeted something that contributed to this. I was hanging out with Matt and Taylor Lorenz, and Taylor pulled up some tweets and was like, oh my God, Matt, you don't even know Caroline has shooters and they are not pleased she was not in the thumbnail. Matt was like, oh my God, what? He said, are you upset? I was like, no, it's fine. He goes, if we were, if it was Twitch related, you would be the thumbnail, but it's YouTube. I was like, it's okay. I understand. It's totally fine. Ray requested Kitty do a yarn episode of Wine About It when she's gone. Oh shit. Y'all are protective, and I love it. I do. I appreciate y'all. And I kept being like, no, they're just joking. No. They're super sweet. Nobody is going to be coming for you. And he reads one of the first comments, and it was like, "Fuck you, Matt." I went, "No, I promise you." I promise. It is jokes. You look like this. Open in app. Okay. Hold on a second. Okay. All right. This is really making me open in browser. Okay. Oh, Mike Wazowski, who has the barcode over him. Yeah. Yep, you're probably wondering how I ended up here. Anyway, we did this whole episode on celebrity cowardice. We go in. We talk about Berlin Film Festival. We talk about all of the people who are in the thumbnail here, plus many more. Plus many, many, many more. So check her out. There was one comment that I responded to that was so touching. Let me see if I can find it. Somebody said, I don't know if I can find it here, but essentially they were like, I'm a 16-year-old gay teen and I live in a conservative area in New Jersey. I do not have friends. I'm not exaggerating. I don't have friends, but it makes me feel less alone to listen to this podcast. It's at the very top. I cannot see. I liked this comment too. If I was drunk and jet lagged and someone asked me how I felt about Israel, they better be prepared for an hour-long rant about the horrors of settler colonialism involving a few choice words. But yeah, I saw that comment and I responded. I was like, look, you aren't alone. Right now, you might be separated by geography, but your community is out there. You will find them. And right now you are a 16-year-old living in a conservative area, and it can be harder to find your people which is why we have to protect our digital freedoms. We have to stop them from taking the internet away from people like the 16-year-old gay teen who, for him, the internet is a lifeline. That is where he, that is where he can find people and listen to what they have to say that relates to how he feels. But yeah, your community is out there, I promise. It just sometimes might not materialize at this moment in your life, but it will get better. Conservative area in New Jersey. My money's on Cape May County from a fellow South Jerseyan. Yeah, I don't really know New Jersey. I just know that Will and Hassan are from there and also Jersey Shore. But I can imagine that being a 16-year-old gay teen living in a conservative area of Jersey is probably not the easiest.
Your fault, and that if
Wasn't
a
Tyrus
specific
Victoria's
situation happened
Yeah, she
today,
modeled for VS.
you would do or say something differently with no real means of accountability or even apologizing to the people that you've harmed. And then it's fine. And then it's like totally fine. I think that is the lesson that we should all take away from this episode about this documentary. Hell yeah. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Y'all go follow Kayla Says. I've done a couple episodes with Kayla, but she and I are very simpatico in our pop culture interests and how we approach them. Okay, this is 6 things that the show left out. 6 controversies the show left out. Yaya and the cowboy hat. All the way back in 2004, the Lincoln lawyer actor Yaya DaCosta made her first TV appearance when she competed on cycle 3 of America's Next Top Model. During one challenge, the models were asked to select a hat that best represented their style. She opted for a cowboy hat. However, when it came to judging in that episode, Judge Niall Barker said to Yaya, everyone thought she would have gone for the African hat. Again, this man tries to make himself out to be one of the good guys. Like he really, there's something about him in particular in the docuseries that I'm like, you phony motherfucker. He is very much trying to give off. He's very much like not all men. That's his vibe. Not all men because I'm one of the good men. Ooh. And then fellow judge Rebecca Weinberg added, you have this intensity to prove your blackness. And I think sometimes it's overbearing. Nigel was always off in the TV show. Yes, because it's like he's brought in as the straight man. Literally, that's his role because everyone else is a big personality, big character. So he's, former model turned photographer, and he's the calm, cool, and collected, handsome straight man playing that role. I watch that doc, OMG. It said terrible stuff all the time. Yeah, it's like, buddy, we don't forget. And also, you're trying too hard. Yaya went on to explain why she didn't pick the hat, saying it's very cliche. The fabric used is very cheap and artificial. In the episode, she was then expected to apologize to the hat. Years later in 2018, she opened up about that moment, saying it took a lot of work to heal from that experience. And looking back, I feel so much for that eager, vulnerable, young version of myself. Okay, Jada had to kiss someone who made her uncomfortable. During season 7, one of the challenges involved the models shooting a deodorant advert. As part of the advert, they were required to kiss a male actor. However, when it was Jada's turn, her sign partner for the challenge said he didn't like black women. Did you even say sorry to the hat? Did you even say thank you? Jada still had to take part in the challenge and was blamed for looking defeated while on the set. She was then critiqued for it during the judging portion of the episode and allowing it to take over her performance. She was then eliminated from the competition. That's another thing they would do is the girl that they would eliminate, they would present her as a problem. And in this case, it was like, oh, Jada didn't want to have to kiss someone who said he didn't like black women. But Jada is a problem now. And then Jada is the one who gets eliminated on the show. Mm-hmm. I worked fashion weeks for years for Mr. Armani. I've been around Naomi. I can tell you all the other models, no matter how big they were scared to death of her. The thing I remember the most, she walked in the room straight to a chair. Another model was sitting, getting her hair done, said nothing, just glared. The sitting model jumped up and Naomi sat down. No one said a word. We just kept working. Yeah, and I don't know. I think the Naomi Campbell of it all is ah it is it's hard to reckon with the knowledge that she was ingrained in Epstein's world, and that she was another woman who was present when young girls were around, when they were, when clearly bad shit was happening. But she not only did nothing about it, she was very dismissive about these girls' presence. It's something that Virginia Giuffre talks about in her memoir, that she had met Naomi Campbell. She was at her 31st birthday party. Ay, ay, ay. It's just, it's, I think something that I've really been thinking a lot about was the role of women in Epstein and Maxwell, who's a woman in that world, and how women participating in, being complicit in abuse of young girls and women is a really painful thing to acknowledge, and how women are play their role because of their femininity, because they can get these girls to put their guards down, because they can make it seem as if, oh, it's okay, it's fine because I'm a woman and I'm here. Momo, thank you for the 14 months. If not Russian bot, thank you for the 6 months. All right. Anyway, let's keep reading these controversies that were not included. When Carrie D contacted hypothermia during the shoot, oh my God, I remember this. Yeah, they had to do a photo shoot in the pool. Carrie D said she was cold, but was told to carry on, and then she got hypothermia and was convulsing. And then she was chastised for not speaking up. She was the same cycle as Jada. Yes. And then they would turn around and blame the girls and be like, well, that's on you. The mistreatment of Isis. Isis King was the first transgender model to compete on the show back in cycle 11. Oh, and Tyra mentions this in the docuseries. She's like, we were breaking ground. We were doing things that no one else had done. We had a transgender model on our show. Well, while the judges treated her with respect, some of her fellow competitors acted unkindly to her, with Casey Leggett saying the show was a girl competition, and Clark Gilmer said she was willing to stomp that man right out of the competition. And it's like, that is something that is something that needs to be nipped in the bud. Okay, you can't have these contestants and all of it's on camera. Remember, they want this stuff because it's drama, because this is what they're fucking filming. It's like they hire a transgender, they cast a transgender model knowing that she is going to be the recipient of bullying, of transphobia. They bullied an autistic model too. Reality TV producers are the OG content demons. They really are. Kelly Cutrone versus Louise. Cycle 18 saw the British arrive with a season that brought together some of the women who had competed on Britain's Next Top Model and new models from America. During the competition, Kelly Cutrone became a judge and ended up in an argument with one of the models Louise, who ended up quitting the show. In a challenge, Louise was racing across the room to get her hair and makeup done. Kelly then called Louise out, saying her behavior was one of the worst attitudes I've ever seen for a young woman in the middle of a competition. Things then got awkward during the judging session when Louise confronted Kelly about her comments. Tyra intervened and reminded Louise of her position. As Kelly was a publicist, she ranked higher than Louise. Frustrated with the lack of support, Louise ended up storming off the set and quitting the show. The mistreatment of Winnie Harlow. Winnie Harlow began her modeling days on Cycle 21. Oh, another person that Tyra bragged about, that they're like, we had Winnie Harlow, and now she's one of the biggest models in the world. where she joined using her real name, Chantel Young. Winnie was discovered by Tyra on Instagram and known for her striking looks. She also has the skin condition vitiligo. I know how to pronounce this. Vitiligo. I think that's how you pronounce it. Vitiligo. I have also met Winnie Harlow multiple times. She used to come in the clubs. She is very gorgina. During the show, creative director Yu Tsai went on to give her nicknames such as Panda and Cow. While Winnie said she knew Tsai said the names from a loving place and wasn't malicious. She didn't like the image that they could give out to the audience. Addie, I'm sorry, but if you're calling someone Panda and Cow who is vitiligo, you're not coming from a loving place. That is fucked up. I don't want kids out there to see you, someone so high up in the industry, calling me Panda and then think it's okay to call someone else a cow because of a skin condition. Tsai went on to deny he called her a cow and said how he called her a name was never insulting, never harmful, and never demerit who you are. When I gave you the nickname, it was to help you. Wait, so he didn't call her a cow, or he did, but he said it was to help her. If you don't understand it, you will no longer deserve that little soft nickname. I'll call you Porcupine from now on. Oh, fuck you. Yeah, say thank you. Did you even say thank you? Did you even say thank you? Yay.
Prince Andrew has been.
Yay. Anyway. Yikes. I love when one contestant left the show because she realized she didn't want. Oh, legend.
I don't know. I just don't think this is like right for me. I don't want to do it.
She was
I want to go home.
right.
Like, I can't take the pressure of it. But don't you think any job interview?
She's just like, no, I'm out. Nope. See ya. She's like, yeah, I don't think I should do this show. I don't think it's good for me. So I'm not gonna do it. Yeah, that's some real iconic shit. She's like, I'm out. Kitsy Cat, thank you for the 15 months. You know, sometimes you got to trust those instincts. And she caught a vibe that the show was no bueno and said, I'm out. Okay. We were just discussing the America's Next Top Model docuseries that dropped on Netflix, and I watched all 3 episodes in a row. And clearly Tyra and Ken Mock and the Jays and Nigel and others who were on the show but not as the talent thought that they could use that docuseries to make themselves look good. In particular, Tyra, who is promoting season 25. At the end of the series, she's like, but wait till you see what we have planned. Season 25, we're so back. And basically, no one's taking accountability. They were all pointing fingers or hand waving away. And that's it. That's showbiz. Because that's showbiz, baby.
Yeah, it was fucked up. It was fucked up, but it was for TV. Reality television. It was fucked up, yeah. It sure was. If it wasn't for me, a lot of them bitches wouldn't have been put on. It wouldn't be no top model. It wouldn't be none of that.
Wait, like, this is 1000% accurate. If you haven't seen the docuseries, I will tell you, you just watch this and this is how it was.
That shit wasn't going to be said. It wasn't going to be said at all. It was the time. It was the period. Them girls needed to be talked to like this shit. You's a nasty big bitch. You're disgusting. You're not pretty. I said what I said. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you was 65 pounds to be exact, you was obese. And you couldn't eat shit. You couldn't eat a motherfucking grape. You'll be a fat ass. They'll call you a fat bitch. I ain't lying. You a big bitch if you eat a peanut. I ain't lying, bitch. You think I'm lying? I ain't lying. Bitches was getting caught sneaking bagels. You couldn't eat or you was going home. Have you kept in contact with Nigel and Jay? Yeah, I talked to them. Yeah, I talked to them. I talked to them. Didn't I tell you not to ask me about that motherfucker? I told you not to ask. Wrap this shit. I'm leaving. So y'all mean to tell me everything was my fault? I was the bad guy. I was the shit. I was the problem. If it wasn't for me, it wouldn't be none of this shit. All this shit right here, none of the document, none of this. Yeah, it was fucked up.
Yeah, it's like Tyra going, there would be no show. There is no America's Next Top Model without me. I am the show. I am the power. And then, she's asked, here's the moment when a model was sexually assaulted and it was filmed, and then they turned it into she cheated on her boyfriend and the amount of trauma that they caused her. Oh, Tyra responds, well, that's production. You know, I didn't really have anything to do with that. I nothing to see here. Then Tyra turns around and is like, but nobody asks how I'm doing. Nobody asks how I'm doing. I will say, I do think it's sad that Miss J, who had a stroke and has been trying to relearn how to walk, and Miss J wants to be back on the runway one day, that Tyra has never visited Miss J, apparently. Did not go to the hospital, has nothing, just nothing, which was really sad. Yeah. So crazy given that Tyra claims she was fat. No, Tyra was fat shamed. That's the thing. It's like, I would have more sympathy for Tyra knowing what she went through. And she was often a target. We started off this conversation talking about how cruel the media and the tabloids were in the early 2000s, that they just nonstop would rip apart women's bodies. And Tyra was one of them. Like, they posted I remember these pictures of her in a swimsuit on the beach, and just how cruel the headlines were. And yet she turns around and perpetuates this, but tries to say that this show is going to be different, that this show is that she's trying to change things here. She's trying to change the culture, give people opportunities who have traditionally been kept out. Ugh. What did Camila do? Oh, yeah. We can talk about this and then move on to the next thing. But Tyra is a victim and perpetrator of fat phobia and body shaming. Yes. And she will not reckon with the role that she played. She won't. She's not going to take accountability. She's not going to acknowledge any of that. She's like, that's how it is. But let's focus on how much good I did, and that I was the person that was there for these girls and giving them the opportunity. Havana, oh no. Camila Cabello. Camila Cabello decided to get online today and share her thoughts on Cuba. And if you're wondering why you've been seeing her name, it's because what she had to say was Havana, no, good. No good. I only learned who she is today. Well, you don't spend enough time in here because we have definitely talked about Camila Cabello. This is the pop culture stream. I will teach you about every single person ever. Okay, E-News audition. And in today's news, Havana, no, Camila Cabello posts online about Cuba and causes an uprise from internet users who did not like what she had to say. Her her reputation is melting as fast as the ice bag that she brought to last year's Met Gala. Okay, that's enough. Am I hired? Joan Rivers would have loved you. No, Joan Rivers would have hated me because Joan Rivers was a Zionist. She would have been like, shut this fucking bitch up. Joan Rivers would have called me she would have called me a fat bitch and probably thrown some slurs in there as well. Been like, who the fuck do you think you are? Her dumbass was like, oh, Cuba's starving. Yeah, okay, so let's go through her statement. Not your cat, thank you for the tier 1. Yeah, she'd be like, who is this ugly ass CCP bitch? Okay, so Camila Cabello, she is Cuban born. She started off on Fifth Harmony. She was a member of Fifth Harmony and then went solo and has had a really successful solo career. So just a little background. Dated Shawn Mendes. The two of them would frequently have staged photo shoots of them walking on the beach together. Anywho, where she was racist to her band. Yeah, that reminds me of Camila Cabello, who was like super racist on Tumblr. Wasn't she one of those like pop girlies who was doing racism on Tumblr before she was globally famous? And then people were like, hey, remember Camila Cabello's racist Tumblr posts? Insanely racist Tumblr posts. Anybody remember that? What was something that she said? Let's see, a Twitter thread. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, she was using the N-word. I think you can usually assume it's that. It's when it's like, wait, what racism were they doing? Oh yeah, using the N-word and other anti-black posts. She was terrible to Normani. Yes, Normani, who's one of the black members of Fifth Harmony. And Camila Cabello had to apologize for her racism. Normani had said that Camila Cabello's racism was absolutely unacceptable and that it took days for her to acknowledge what I was dealing with online and then years for her to take responsibility for the offensive tweets that recently resurfaced. Uh-huh. I used language I'm deeply ashamed of and will regret forever, the 22-year-old wrote. This was 2019. Screenshots posted on Twitter this week accused the Señorita singer of using the N-word on an old Tumblr account. I apologize then and I apologize again now. Camila, who's now 22, said she would never intentionally hurt anyone and regrets her previous language from the bottom of my heart. When I was younger, I used language I was deeply ashamed of and will regret forever. I was uneducated and ignorant, and once I became aware of the history and the weight and the true meaning behind this horrible and hurtful language, I was deeply embarrassed I ever used it. I apologize then, and I apologize again now. Well, here's the thing. Camila Cabello, unfortunately, is still uneducated and is still posting things that reveal she is on the wrong side of things. Now, it might not be the N-word this time, but it is still pure ignorance. So here's her post. There is so much going on here at home and so much I can say about the heartbreaking things the immigrant community is experiencing here in the U.S. I also feel a personal responsibility to speak out about what's happening in Cuba. I still have family on the island that we speak to and send medicine, food, and clothes to. It has been 67 years of a failing dictatorship and an oppressive regime. The Cuban people are suffering in an echo chamber where no one can hear them because to speak is to risk your life. Many people are starving, looking for food in trash heaps, and the only way to survive is having relatives ship you boxes of medicine because not even the hospitals have medicine. Ay, ay, ay. The power is gone for so long that food spoils and water becomes scarce. When people have peacefully protested, they've disappeared or been put behind bars, some as young as 13 years old. This is a reality where a post online costs you your life. The Cuban people have lived without dignity and without hope for too long. It's no wonder so many Cubans have thrown themselves into shark-infested waters, making boats out of tires and sticks and risking their lives for freedom. They are now in the midst of a profound humanitarian crisis. Girl, they have been in that crisis, and it is not because of, as you call it, 67 years of a failing dictatorship and oppressive regime. It is because of the country which you currently call home. that is bragging, that is currently led by a man who is bragging about how he is strangling Cuba, that he's going to be the one to finally force regime change in Cuba. They are now in the midst of a profound humanitarian crisis. If you want to help and don't know how, check the link below to support Caritas Cuba and their work. If you're able to give, any donation makes a difference. I think this is a non-profit that is, I want to say this is connected to the Catholic Church. Now, I don't really know much more about this, but anyway, it is. Okay. Now, Camila definitely got cooked for this. A lot of people responded to this and were like, hey, I hope you can actually understand why Cuba has been suffering for 67 years. And it's called the world's longest economic embargo that has been forced onto Cuba by the United States government. Like, this would be a good opportunity for you to learn some basic facts here, which is that the US has for decades imposed such stifling sanctions in the attempts to control the Cuban government, to force regime change, to install somebody who is somebody who can be controlled by US power. It's like, why don't we live? Yeah.